I got to reading yesterday, and I normally don't quote from books because I love the Bible. But there's a dead guy called Martin Lloyd-Jones. I don't know if you guys know him, but in 1959, he wrote this book called Revival. And I've read it before, but I'm starting to read it again because I told you I'm going deeper. And I'd love for you to read this book. It's one of the best books I've ever read on revival. Let me just read this to you, and I just wanted to hit you, and then we're going to pray, and then we're going to respond. But MLJ says this: if you do not submit yourself entirely to the revelation that He has given, and if you are not aware of the plague of your own heart and the foulness of the nature that you have inherited originally from Adam, if you do not see your hopelessness and your utter despair before this holy, righteous God who hates sin with the whole of His being, you have no right to talk about revival or even pray for it. What revival reveals above anything else is the sovereignty of God and the iniquity and the helplessness and the hopelessness of man in sin. But then he goes on. He says, may God give us grace to mediate on these things. How do you think of God? How do you approach God? What is your attitude in His presence? Let us start with ourselves. This is personal. It is for every one of us. In revival, God takes hold of unknown men that nobody ever heard of, insignificant, so-called members of the church. And it is through such people that He has often done the mightiest work. Who knows? It may be someone whose name has never been heard, who may be the very instrument of God in revival for which we long. You know what he's saying? Understand the sovereignty of God. Get really low before Jesus. Understand the brokenness that you are, and that you just come to Him with open heart and open mind and let Him use you. And I'm telling you, He's saying, and I love this, and this is the history of our God. God never used anybody special. You know what He did? He took nobodies and made them somebodies in His name. And listen, there are going to be some people in this room today that need to hear that God is for you and He's not against you. He wants to use you in this new season. He wants to use you to go out and do awesome stuff for Him. But you've got to realize you're desperate for Him. You've got to realize your need for Him.